Shalom, Shalom Israel. Malaka Tazma, I'm back at it with another video. Well, mighty brother Amir. Here we are with a Genesis in the Garden of Eden breakdown.
Shalom.
We're gonna give a call law to Yahweh Shem Al Shai, that's giving all praises, honor, and glory to the world calls God in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Shalom, shalom. We're gonna get it started. Hey, brothers, focus on the breakdown, not the noise in the background, right? So this is the book of Genesis, chapter 2, and verse 7. And the Lord Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed breath breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Right, man? So a lot of people get confused when Genesis breaks down, because they really think the Most High formed man out of literally dust and clay and made that man, and close his nose like this and give the man CPR and he became a living man. But that's not what it's going into, right? You could give me that in Ezekiel 37 and verse 9.
This book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 9. Then said he
unto me, let me mute myself. Okay, I got it.
This book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 9, it says, Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, come from the four winds, breathe, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. Con, you want me to put that down here? You got it.
What?
Okay, Con, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, Con, I got it. Right. So it said, oh breath, right? It said, come from the four winds, oh breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live, right? So that's what the Most High, he did in the Garden of Eden, right? He breathed that breath of life, but now we have to figure out, what are you talking about? That breath. What is that breath? What is he talking about? Right? Because the Most High is not going to sit there and break it down how he made every man and every nation, how every, the Lord speaks in parables, man. If you got ears to hear, this is still Yahweh Shai, right? Didn't he speak in parables to the disciples? Didn't he speak in parables to the scribes and Pharisees? He spoke in parables, man. That's how Israel is, right? Isn't Israel the top rappers? And you know what I mean? That's poetry, right? You see a Bible as like a big book of poetry, man, right? So like read verse 10.
Verse 10, it says, So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army.
Right, keep reading.
Verse 11, Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off of our parts.
Boom, man. So now we have an idea of what that breath is, right? Because I'm going to read verse 10 again. He says, So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, right? So what is he? We know that breath is the words of the Most High, because he said, I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them. So now we kind of get an idea of what that breath is talking about in Genesis 2 and 7. I'm going to read it again. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 2 and verse 7. And the Lord Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground, right? He's formed man of the dust of the ground. Why? Because man ain't know nothing yet, right? It's just kind of like a bunch of nations just running around, just living. You know what I mean? So nobody had any wisdom yet. That's what the breath is, the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding, right? If you got ears to hear the law, right? So I'm going to read it from the top. It said, So the Lord Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul, right? Go, give me Revelation 11 and verse 11. Right? Because this is the spirit, it's the spirit of the Most High that fell upon men, right? And not just every nation, right? This certain man that he called Adam, right? And the generations after him, or the Adamites, right? And it goes so on and so on, like Enoch and so on and so on. The Israelites had to come from a certain seed, right? So go ahead, read that for me, Yacht.
This book of Revelation, chapter 11 and verse 11. And it says, And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahweh entered into them.
Read that again from the top. Read it again.
God. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahweh entered into them, and they stood upon their feet.
Right. So the spirit, right? It said what? The spirit of life from Yahweh came into them, man. So that's what he was breathing into, the spirit of the Most High. We're gonna keep getting into, and all these precepts is gonna fall into place, and it's gonna make complete sense. Because this Genesis is the hardest book to break down, right? Because you know, Pastor Porkchop will tell you that it's that is literal, that he made man, he breathed into his, you know, he breathed into him, and you know, all of a sudden they were naked, and a snake was talking, he bit that, like all that is going to be broken down, man, because we have to understand. If we can't understand Genesis, how are we going to understand what Paul's talking about? How are we going to understand what Yahweh Shai was talking about in Revelation? You know, how are we going to understand what Ezekiel talking about over here if we don't know with Genesis? Like the Lord said, what he said we have to hear a little, there a little, precept upon precept. Right, so all the books tie into one, right? So read that again, Salaki.
Come, Book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 11. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahweh entered into them, and they stood upon their feet. And great fear fell upon them which saw them.
Right. Just like when Adam was trying to hide himself, right? When he was trying to hide himself because he knew he was naked, right? And sin, if you got ears to hear. Right, that spirit of fear, man, was when you in that side of the Most High, man. You know what I mean? You're gonna tremble. No man gonna say, "I ain't scared." You know, ain't man. No man's gonna be doing that, man. Let me bring out a precept real quick. Right, because we gotta really break down, and we're gonna get into what that spirit of life and what that breath really is, man. But you got to understand that breakdown from Genesis is in the book of Ezekiel, right? Precept has to fall upon precept. This is the book of wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 24. So for wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of Yahweh. Right? I'm going to read that again, you know, kind of guy in a way, right? This is the book of wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 24. For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of Yahweh, and a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore can know the foul thing fall to her, right? For she is the brightness of the everlasting light, the unspotted mirror of the power of Yahweh in the image of his goodness, right? So that now we know what that is, right? When he breathed that breath of life, it was the spirit of it's wisdom, and it's the spirit of the Most High. So when he breathed into Adam, when he breathed into Adam's, you know, when we breathed that life into Adam, he brought him out from just being a regular man, and he gave them wisdom. Right? Give me the book of Job chapter 27 and verse 3. Come on, Bobby. Come on. Please. All right.
And this is the book of Job to 27 and verse 3. All the while my breath is in me, and the spirit of Yahweh is in my nostrils.
And the what?
And the spirit of Yahweh is in my nostrils.
And the spirit of the Most High is in his nostrils, man. Why? Because he has wisdom, right? Job continually used wisdom, man, right? When you read the book of Job, as he was going through trials, tribulations, and affliction, he never bulked up against the Most High. Why? Because Job was a wise man. That's the wisest thing you could do, is not bulk up against the Most High, right? You could give me the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 43. I mean, verse 45.
You said 3:45?
1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 45.
Yeah, 15:45. So
This
book of 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 45. And it reads, and so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul.
This might confuse a couple people. The first man, Adam, was made a living soul, right? That's talking about who? The Adam that if you guys used to hear, Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus, breathed into him, gave him wisdom, knowledge, understanding, right? Go ahead.
The last Adam was made a quickening spirit.
Was made a what?
Was made a quickening spirit.
Was made a quickening spirit. Who's that last Adam? That last Adam is Yahweh Shai, man. Give me the book of John. Give me the book of John, chapter 6 and verse 63.
This is the book of John, chapter 6 and verse 63.
Right.
And it reads, "It is the spirit that quickeneth.
Mm-hmm.
The flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life."
Right. They are spirit and they are life, man. Yahweh Shai was the second Adam that was made a quickening spirit, man. Right? Because we know that Yahweh Shai is made to do what? The will of the Heavenly Father, right? He said, "I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me to do thy will, O God," right? So we know that the words that he's speaking to us is the same words coming from the Heavenly Father, right? They are spirit and they are life, man. So that's what he breathed into him, right? Yahweh Shai breathed that breath, that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding into that Adam, right? I got it. The book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 26, because there was already man here, right? That wasn't the first account. Some people will read that and say, "Aha, you see, that's the first account how he made man." There was man already on the earth, and we about to prove it with the book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 26. And Yahweh said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeped upon the earth." So there was already people here. People were already doing things and moving around and building things. There were already people living here, man, right? But then they were just people walking. Nobody had no wisdom. Nobody had understanding. You know what I mean? Nobody, the Most High wasn't down. Nobody was wearing fringes yet, and that wasn't going on yet. You understand? So there was people already living. So how can he all of a sudden make another man? Right? That doesn't make any sense. Right? You got a precept or no?
Yeah, I got a precept.
All right, come on, bring it up.
Hold up. Yeah, it's the book of Sirach, chapter 33 and verse 10.
Bring it out.
It says, "And all men are from the ground, and Adam was created of earth. And much knowledge the Lord hath divided them and made their ways diverse." So the brother's bringing out, there's people there before Adam. But what did the Most High do? He chose that one Adam to give the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to. And what's the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding? These laws, statutes, and commandments, man. Because like the brother was saying, people were walking around, they didn't have any wisdom, they didn't have the laws, they didn't have any order, man. But the Most High, he chose through Adam to bring through the laws and to bring them onto the earth and to establish them through him. But let's keep on reading. It says, "Some of them have he blessed and exalted." And the people he blessed and exalted during this time was Adam. He chose to bless and exalt him. "And some of them have he sanctified and set near himself, Adam. But some of them have he cursed and brought low and turned out their places." So that's just plain upon tables, You have people. Yeah.
So
you can go ahead, Ken.
I got a side precept. Because, like I said, like me and brother was saying, there was already people here. The Lord chose one man, right? And we know the man carries the seed. We know that one man, through his seed, we all fall into place. Like Esdras 6 and verse 54 through, brother, everybody know that precept. That's a precept. Everybody should know that precept. Right? So, but we have to go back into it. What do you mean? Why did he just choose this one man? You got to understand, everything was made from the beginning, right? Before the book of Genesis, right? Before the Lord even made the grass on the earth, before he made the water, you got to understand there were people promised. That Adam right there was promised before heaven was made, that he will get that salvation, he will get that knowledge, that wisdom, and that understanding, man. Same to 2021 right here, but every brother wearing fringes, making videos, and it's true, trying to study, go hard, fasting, praying, right? We were all promised, whether we make it at the end of the day or not, we were promised to have this wisdom, knowledge, understanding before the Most High created this earth. And I'm gonna bring that out. It's the book of 2nd Esdras chapter 6. And he, said unto me, in the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or ever the winds blew, before it thundered and lightning, or ever the foundations of paradise were laid, before the fair flowers were seen, or ever the movable powers were established, before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together, or ever the heights of the air were lifted up, before the measures of the firmament were named, or ever the chimneys in Zion were hot, and ere the present years we were sought out, and or over the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed that have gathered faith for treasure, right? So I know that was kind of choppy, you know what I mean? But the Most High, he's just telling you, before it thunder, before it lightning, before it rain, before anything, the Most High promised spirits in the kingdom of heaven that they will receive that they will receive the salvation, man. I'm gonna read verse 6 again, right? I'm gonna read verse 5 again. And ere the present years were sought out, and or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed that have gathered faith for treasure, man. Right? Sealed, man. We were sealed in here. Give me the book of what did we leave off? Let me see. Give me the book of Proverbs chapter 8 verse 23. Stop! Give me my papa here.
You said 28 and 3, King?
Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 22 through 23.
Con. This book of Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 22. And it reads...
Hold on, so I can. Hold on. 1 second.
Con, go ahead.
Calm. Gave him a little something to eat, keep him busy. All right, calm, bring it out.
Con, this book of Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 22.
Bring it out.
It says, the Lord possessed me in the beginning of his way, before his works of old. I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning, or ever the earth was.
You see, man, who's that talking about? We already know. We already read it. That's talking about wisdom, man. Con. Right? How can the Most High, how can wisdom not be up there with the Most High, man? Right? Come on, the Most High is wisdom, knowledge, and understanding.
I got
right? To know the Most High, to know the Most High is to have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, man. Like, yeah, bring it out.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 24, and verse 1. It says, wisdom shall praise herself and shall glory in the midst of her people. In the congregation of the Most High shall she open her mouth and triumph before his power. Now, I'm just going to jump down a bit. This is the verse. I'm going to do verse 7. It says, with all these I sought rest, and in whose inheritance shall I abide? So this is wisdom asking a question. Who am I going to abide in? Whose inheritance am I going to be joined with? And it's going to explain. Verse 8. So the creator of all things gave me a commandment, and he that made me caused my tabernacle to rest, and said, let thy dwelling be in Jacob, and thine inheritance in Israel. So, like the brothers bringing out, man, wisdom, it went through Adam, and it came all the way down to us, man, to this day, man. The people that are in this truth, like the brothers saying, we're infringers nowadays, doing keeping the commandments, doing videos, being diligent, man. The wisdom chose to abide with us to this day. It's been set up since beginning, like the brothers have been talking about. But go on, brother.
Calm. Right. So, and we know that let's talk about wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, man. Right. Let me see if I could go. Let me see if I'm gonna read a little more. Let me see. Honestly, I could keep on reading to furthermore prove it, but since there's already a lot of precepts, we're gonna keep it not so short but not so long. Let me see. Where did we leave off? Okay, so back to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7, right? Let's read it again. Right? Just so brothers is not lost on where we at and stuff. Right? This is the book of Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And the Lord Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground. Right? Because didn't the Lord say he brings a man out of the dunghill? That's what the Lord did, man. Right? If you could find that precept, you could give it to me. I think it might be 1 Samuel 2:6 when he said he makes man poor.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I want the one when he said he brings man out the dunghill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
yeah, I got
this you gotta bring that out.
Yeah, this book of 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 6. And it says, the Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill. And set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the world upon them.
Perfect. See, that came through that precept came through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man, because that's exactly what I need. He brings you out of the dung, out of the dust. He said he brings you what? Man, out of the what? The dust. What did he say in Revelation 2:7? He brought man out of the dust. He formed man out of the dust of the ground. He didn't say he formed man, like literally formed his nose. Oh, too big. Let me take some off. No, man. He's talking about he formed you on how you will live, right? How you will live your life. If I'm a rapper, right, and I'm gang banging, and somebody, yo, I made you. They talking about he chose how you will live your life, right? Or I took him under my wing. I made him. You know what I mean? I made him who he is. That's how the Most High really. He made He made man who man is right now, man. He made Israel who we are right now, man. But he formed us out of that lower state. We were in a lower state, not because we were poor, not because we didn't have no land, no money. No, because we didn't have no knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Who knows, man? We was probably in there eating some pork, man, eating a shrimp. And he's like, nah, I got to give these people some wisdom. You know what I mean? You never know, man. Right? So go to the book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 3. Right? We're going to continue to break it down.
And this is the book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse number 3. And it reads, and he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord Yahweh, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live.
Right, man. So that's what he did. He caused that breath, that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because we understand what he mean. Prophesy. That's obvious. He's out there waking up his people, right? You got like I said, videos. You got people in person like, hey, cousin, auntie, hey, friend, brother, sister, whatever. You know what I mean? Letting people know what they just found out. That's prophesying. We prophesying right now, right? We breathing that breath of life, right? You know what I mean? We quartered the four corners, man. Because you could be in China and watching this video, man. Well, I don't know how to, but y'all know what I mean, right? You could be across the world and hear one of these videos, right? You could be down the street, headphones in here, hear people, what he say? And read them here in the Bible, and you know what I mean? And all of a sudden that seed is planted in your head. That's what it's talking about, man. You spreading that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? Keep on reading.
Verse 6. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am the Lord.
Right. That's what he's doing. What verse was that?
Verse 6.
Oh, Khan. All right, Khan. Yeah, that's what I needed, man. So we know that knowledge we proven point after point after point. The Lord said, what? Out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. So we giving you precept upon precept upon precept. We lining these precepts up, man. Right? Who said the Bible contradicts itself? That doesn't make no sense, man. You can't understand what Genesis is talking about. Why? Because you gotta the prophet Ezekiel breaks that down. Right? Give me the book of go to Genesis 3:1. Right? So now we know that the man was formed out of a lower state, right? And that one man, you had Adam giving him the knowledge of wisdom. Yahushua giving this one man, who the scripture will call Adam, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right?
This book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 1, it says, "Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord Yahweh had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, have Yahweh said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden."
It's like I had a phone call.
Read that again for me, please. Read it again. This book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 1. It says, "Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord Yahweh had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, have Yahweh said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden?"
Right. So we know the beast of the field, right? He said what? Beast of the field, the serpent, right? Now let's figure out if that's talking about a snake, right? Is it talking about a snake, or is it talking about a nation, a certain nation, a man, right? We're gonna figure it out. Hold on, because he kind of messed up my notes, man. Touching stuff, right? So I can bear with me. Okay, go to the book of Ezekiel 3 and verse 1. Chapter 3 and verse 1.
This book of Ezekiel, chapter 3, verse 1, and it says, "Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, eat that thou findest, eat this roll, and go speak unto the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly."
That's all. Right, that's all. That's all. I want to know up to verse 2. Right. So what he said eat this roll. And the reason why I added that precept in there is because when he told the serpent told Eve, eat this fruit. Right. So we just an example of that's not literal. Right. He didn't say, here's an apocrypha, eat it. You know, and Edris was in there like this, like, you're right. You know, he not saying there doing that, man. Right. It's a figure of speech. Right. The Lord said he speaks in similitudes. Right. So when you eat something up, you know what I mean? That's like saying, like, oh, you get somebody run you over and you playing football. Like, damn, I ate that though. You know what I mean? It's just a figure of speech. Right. So give me the book of Ecclesiasticus Sirach chapter 17 and verse 11.
This book of Sirach chapter 17 and verse 11. And it says, "Besides this, he gave them knowledge and the law of life for inheritance."
For inheritance, right? And that's all I needed from there. Because that's what he gave Adam and Eve and that generation. Right? He gave them an inheritance of rules, laws, and commandments to follow. Right? Give me the book of Matthew chapter 21 and verse 18. I want up to 22. Don't read no further than 22. So Matthew chapter 21 and verse 18 through 22.
This is the book of Matthew chapter 21 and verse 18. And it says, "Now in the morning as he returned unto the city, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon, but leaves only, and said unto it, Let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is the fig tree withered away? Yahushua answered and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, if ye have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if ye shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive."
Right, man. See, that's just a parable, because what we have to get into, right? Beast of the field is going to represent nations of people. Trees represent nations of people. Water represents doctrine. So you got to understand this. These breakdowns is so important. Mute your mic real quick. Yeah, it was kind of coming off kind of crazy. So we have to understand that trees, beasts of the field, it represent nations.
Sloppy, that's you on your side. You're getting staticky.
Oh, calm me.
Yeah, now it's better now. I don't know what you just did, but
I don't know what I did.
Come
All
on,
right,
it's better now.
let's bring it out through the spirit, right? So I'm not going to repeat myself. Brothers heard me, right? So let's read Ezekiel 31 and verse 1. So come on, Papa. Why you bothering me so much? Shit.
This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 31 and verse 1. And it
Wait,
came to pass.
sorry. I'm sorry. Let me say this. Right. So keep in mind about the fig tree, right, and the fruit, right. All right, go ahead, read. Just sorry, just some little message to Israel because I know a lot kind of going on my side.
This book of Ezekiel, chapter 31 and verse 1. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, in the 1st day of the month, that the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude, whom art thou like in thy greatness? Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon, with fair branches and with shadowing shroud.
See, peep that. He said the Assyrian, right? He said the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches. So that's him expressing how what? What is a cedar? And like he's saying he's a big, beautiful. He's a big tree, man. So saying he has a big influence, right? He's a huge name. He has a big influence. Keep reading. I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Keep reading. Up to verse read verse 4 and then stop.
You said what?
Read up to verse 4 and then stop.
Oh, okay, calm. And with a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high, with her rivers running around about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. That's verse 4 came.
Right, peep that. He said Assyrian. The Assyrian was the tree, the great cedar in Lebanon with fair branches, meaning it was beautiful, beautiful to look at. And their rivers, right? What do you say about the rivers? Read it again. Verse 4.
With her rivers running around about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field.
All the trees of the field. So meaning all the nations were they were following the Assyrians' doctrine, right? Their knowledge, wisdom, and their understanding. They were going based off a lot. The nations were going based off of them. They had the most influence on the smaller nations. If you got ears to hear, man, right? This is the book of Genesis, chapter 2 and verse 9, and it reads, "And out of the ground made the Lord Yahweh to grow every tree that is pleasant in the sight of and good for food." Right. So now we know. Wait, what did he call the Assyrian? A great fair cedar, right? A cedar in Lebanon. That's what we called it with fair branches, right? And we know that parable Yahweh Shai said he's about with the fig tree, right? So that fig tree was a man who wasn't doing nothing with the wisdom he had. That man was cut off, right? Out of the ground made the Lord Yahweh to grow every tree that's pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge and good and evil, man. Right? So that tree, right? Because we already know the breath. What did Yahweh Shai do? He was breathing and he was speaking to Adam, right? To Adam, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, man. Right? So let me read one more time so nobody's confused. Right? And out of the ground made the Lord Yahweh to grow every tree that is pleasant in the sight and good for food. Right? The tree of life also in the midst of the garden. So now we know there's no actual tree that you pluck fruit off of. Right? And he ate the green apple. He dead now. You know what I mean? That's not what it's talking about. Because there's no fruit you can't just pluck off a tree and the Lord kill you, man. Right? So that's talking about nations when he's talking about the tree in the book of Genesis 2. Let me see. I think kind of 2 and 9, and how he's breaking it down in Ezekiel with the cedar of Lebanon, right? Right. Give me the book of Also, like I got one more. Verse 10. And a river went out of Eden, the water to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads. Right? So now we know that's what it's talking about in that book of Ezekiel, right? The when he's talking about the rivers that went and watered every tree, right? So let's read on. Give me the book of Ezekiel 31. All right, so where we ended, verse 4. So read verse 4 again and read up to verse 6 and stop.
Read verse 4 again. This book of Ezekiel chapter 31 and verse 4. The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high with her rivers running round about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of the waters when he shot forth. All the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young.
Read that again.
All the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwell all their generations.
Great nations.
Yeah,
all great nations. So what are they talking about? What is the pastor on Sunday talking about when he has no idea what he's talking about in Genesis? Ezekiel just told you what he's talking about in Genesis, man. Right? The beasts of the field, the trees, right? That's nations, man. So when this serpent came, right, to deceive Eve, he told her what she wanted to hear, man. Right? He deceived her with a doctrine. Oh, yo, my son took off his diaper. Yo, hold on, Salagia. Yo, Salagia. Right, hold on. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
All right, Salakia. Give me the book of what?
Oh, okay, I got a precept.
Yeah, bring it out. I'll be right back.
Let me wait for this, bro.
All right, Con, you still there?
Con. Well, I'm gonna bring it up right now. This is the book of Hosea, chapter 12 and verse 10. It says, I have also spoken by the prophets, I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. So, like the brother's talking about, he's not talking about actual trees, talking about beasts, Adam was and Eve were talking to an actual snake that was going on his belly and slithering around, a talking snake. It's not talking about that. Like the brother said, the pastors in the church, they had no idea what he's talking about. Why? Because he's using similitudes and parables that weren't given unto them. But let me get another precept. This is the book of Luke, chapter 10. Let me do 8. This is the book of Luke, chapter 8 and verse 10. It says, and he said, unto you is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of Yahweh, but to others in parables, that seeing they might not see, and hearing they might not understand. So people don't really understand what's going on in Genesis, man. It was only given to a select group of people, man. You know, the elect. Because some people might think that Adam and Eve were walking around, they were naked. You know what I'm saying? They were hiding in trees, you know, and they were talking to snakes. You know, it's not going into that. You know, it's not going into that. You can get that through the precepts, but you have to have a good understanding. And it's only given to a select few. But like the brother was bringing out, this is all parables, man. And we're gonna get more into that with the trees. This is the book of Mark. Let me go to it real quick. This is the book of Mark, chapter 6, and verse Slucky. Actually, I'm not gonna go to that. I'm gonna go to instead. I'm gonna go to this one first. And this is the book of Psalms, chapter 78, and verse 2. It says, I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. So the Lord said that he's going to open his mouth in a parable and utter dark sayings of old. These dark sayings of old, they're coming into play right now. And we can see them through the precepts and the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. We're able to understand these dark sayings because back in the day, we weren't able to understand this, man. 100 years back, you bring this out, people think that Adam and Eve were talking to an actual snake, man. It's not talking about that, man. But now we're able to understand that. But here's what I really wanted to get. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, and I believe verse 18. And it reads, this is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, and verse 18. I said in mine heart concerning the estate of sons of men, that Yahweh might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. So when the Lord is saying beast, he's talking about men. He's not talking about an actual beast. You know what I'm saying? What's something called a Komodo dragon? A Komodo dragon walking around the Garden of Eden, and a damn a lizard. Then you got a damn you got actual dragon walking around talking, and then talking with Adam and Eve. He's not talking about that. He's talking about man. The Most High referred to man as beasts. There's multiple precepts on that refer to man as beasts. But I'm gonna go give it to you, King. We can continue off where we started.
Con, all praises. And like you were saying before, it was only given to a certain amount of people, certain elect. We read that in Romans 9, right? Romans 11, 7 and 8, it talks about the stumbling block, how the Lord gave him ears not to hear, eyes not to see, right? Romans 9, 13 to 15 tells you that he has mercy when he has mercy, compassion when he has compassion. Same thing with Israel. Right, he made them honor the vessel, some to dishonor, some to honor. Right, that's Romans 18 to 21. Well, you shouldn't have been playing with it. Right. All right. So Salaki, back to where we was. Let me see. Let me go back to my notes. Right, to keep it. But give me the book of Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15. No, I got it. Give me the book of Hold the book of Ezekiel 31 and 6 for me real quick. Low key might have to make this into two parts, yo.
Oh yeah, it gets deep
for sure. Honestly, and I honestly the second part I might throw how Esau's Cain reincarnated and stuff like that. That's a good point, too, man.
Nah.
So this is the book of Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15. And the Lord Yahweh took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it, right? And the Lord Yahweh commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die, right? She's not talking about an actual fruit. He said knowledge of good and evil because he, at this point, the Lord ain't say, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. It was thou shalt eat this, thou shalt do that, thou shalt do this. You know what I mean? It wasn't thou shalt not. They didn't know what not to do. right? The Lord said, do this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do that. You know, he said, but don't eat of the fruit of the other tree, right? Of the good and evil, because then you're gonna die, man. Right? Let me see if I got a precept. I'm trying to think of a precept, right? But we know that's not talking about an actual fruit. You could read Ezekiel. Let me see. Ezekiel 31 and verse 6.
Verse 6. This is the book of Ezekiel to the 31 and verse 6. All the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwelt all great nations. Thus was he fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by the great waters.
Right? You know, just to bring you guys back into understanding, right? That you know, that the tree is as nations. So when she bit of that fruit, she was deceived by another, like a doctrine of some sort, right? Or however that other nation was living. She brought it back to her husband. He did the same thing, and he started living different, right? Who knows? They might have started celebrating Christmas, Thanksgiving, right? Oh, Merry Thanksgiving. They eating with the other nations. You know, the Most High not happy about it, right? So I can kind of, let me get another precept real quick. I think I kind of backtracked. I'm gonna read Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6 to 7 really quick. This is the book of Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, right? And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Right, so that's what they were. That's what she did. She bit into the doctrine of the other nations, man. Right, so he was telling her things she wanted to hear, like, oh, you didn't know the woman is above the man because the woman gives birth and da 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 da, and she ate that and she took that up, man. Right, what's her husband like? How are you over me when I give da 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 da? He's like, you right, right. And he started eating up that doctrine, man. Right, verse 7. And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. Meaning, you know, they tried to cover up themselves with other doctrines, right? They tried to cover themselves to make themselves like they weren't guilty, right? They tried to make coverings, like, you know what? I need to do this. I'm a Christian now. I don't need to wear fringes. Don't worry about it. I believe in Jesus Christ and faith, right? Let me see. This one had to be a last people. You can give me John chapter 9 and verse 41.
You said what? Because you kind of.
So like it. John 9 and 41.
John 9 and 41. This is the book of John chapter 9 and verse 41. It says, Yahushua said unto them, if ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now you say, we see, therefore your sin remaineth.
Right. And let me do it again. Let me read it again so you guys get that. How that relates to, man, these precepts add up. There's no denying this breakdown, man. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 7. And the eyes of them were both open. Now, what did John 9 and 41 say? He said, read it again, Sly. I don't want to paraphrase long.
Yahushua said unto them, if ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now you say, we see, therefore your sin remaineth.
There we go, man. And that's why the Lord said, that's why the Lord put up the curse upon Eve like that, man. And Adam, and you know, everybody was big and beautiful, and they ain't really had no issues, man. Right? But now women have birth pains, and Jake is struggling, and amen. One thing happens after another, man. The Bible breaks it all down. Right? Now let me see. Right? Give me the book. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 31. 4 and 13.
The book of Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 13. Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and opened unto the eyes of him with whom we have to do.
Because when they tried to sew them fig leaves together, you know, they're trying to cover themselves up. Because what did Adam say? What did Adam say when Yahweh Shah was trying to call him? Right? Because he said there's nothing, everything's open between the and the Lord. If your parents call home, I mean your teacher call home from school and you've been bad, your parents is waiting on you. Hey, what'd you do at school today? You know, I was just chilling, you know what I mean? We done drew, you know what I mean? We was coloring, right? They don't want to hear that. You right? Because you naked before your parents, man. Right? So let me see. Right, so they was making images of themselves, and they were like adding sin into sin. You can give me Isaiah 30 and 1.
31 and what?
No, Isaiah 30 and verse 1.
Okay, come on. The book of Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 1. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin.
That's what went down, man. And that's the Garden of Eden breakdown right there. To be honest with you, what did we go over? We went through the trees. The Assyrian was what? That tree in Lebanon, right? That beautiful, fair cedar tree. It was described in what? The waters went out, right? The rivers went out and watered what? The trees, right? And what happened? He said the beasts of the field gathered under this tree. Now, there's no tree big enough to have every animal in every nation living under the shadow of that tree, right? He's talking about that they dwelt under that great nation, man, right? It was that nation's, like right now it's Babylon, right? America, that these countries look and say, oh, they got the best medicine. They got the best school. I want to be like an American, right? America's looked at as how the Assyrian was looked at back in the days of Genesis, right? So we went over that. We went over the fruit being what? Doctrine, right? How did they cover themselves? They added sin unto sin, man. Right? He hid himself in the midst when the Most High bring it down. And see, I don't really want to get into too much of that because that's for part 2 of the video that I want to break down with something else. Right? But that was a pretty quick breakdown, to be honest. I thought it was gonna take us like an hour and a half. You got any precepts to add in?
Well, yeah, I'll add a couple.
Yeah, come on, bring it out.
Yeah, this is the book of Mark, chapter 8 and verse 34. And it says, Slakia, not 34, 24. It's the book of Mark, chapter 8 and verse 24. I'm going to start at 23. And it says, and he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the town. And when he spit on his eyes and put his hand upon him, he asked him if he saw aught. So this is Yahweh Shah when he was healing the blind man. You know, he kind of spit in the man's eye. He kind of rubbed it out. He was questioning the man after this. He said, I'm going to read that again. He asked him if he saw aught. And he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. So the trees represent man. It's not talking about actual trees. And let me get a precept in Genesis real quick to kind of understand what's going on. This is Genesis chapter 3 verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Lord, Yahweh, walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord, Yahweh, amongst the trees of the garden. Now, does this mean they were hiding in the trees of the garden? You know, they were kind of behind a dam, or what they call it? The dam, I think red oak or something. I don't know, the biggest tree in California. They were hiding behind that. You know, they're hiding behind the bushes. No, it's not talking about that. They're hid amongst the people. They try to assimilate into their ways. They try to be like them. Like the brother was saying, adding sin upon sin. What would they add sin upon sin? By following the other trees. You know, the other men that were in the garden, they try to hide themselves among them. Try to add sin try to cover up by adding sins upon them. Go ahead, Ken.
Kind of got a perfect precept for that too. This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help, and our watching we have watched for a nation that cannot save us. So that's exactly what they was doing, right? They was dabbling with the other nations in their doctrine, and then when the Most High came, I didn't do anything. What are you talking about, right? They were adding sin to sin, and they were looking for a nation that can't save them, right? they said they dismissed with the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding the Most High gave them, and they went right to they stuck with the nation that can't do nothing for them, man. It was vain.
Con. This all you want to bring out, Ken? For that priest, Con. Well, hold up. Let's see if I'm gonna get another one. Well, nah, we're not gonna get into that. That's a little bit. That could be for the next breakdown.
Yeah, Con. I got you with notes and stuff for the next breakdown. It's gonna be it might be a little short because it ain't really like hard to break down, but I'll add more so it won't be like too short of a video.
Yeah, I didn't want to jump too far into it.
Yeah, Con. That's why I stopped. When you read it, I was like, dang, I might have to break that down already, you know? But Con, it's good. Through the spirit, man, this video went pretty well. Definitely had one videos. All right, so we're gonna give a call, Lord. Yahweh, just give it all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Malaka Tazwan, Shalom.
Brother Amir, Shalom.